most of my life, I have been dissociating, and I didn't even realize it. I thought I just had like a bad memory or that I was too sensitive as a child. And that's what it is, I don't remember a lot of my childhood. There's chunks that are missing, and this used to concern me. And I realized that what I was doing as a child was dissociating. I was disconnecting myself from whatever reality was going on at the moment. And really, that's a trauma survival mechanism. And now that I'm aware of it, I'm trying to be more conscious of it because really the healthy thing to do is to detach. And we can detach in love. And that's a conscious effort, a conscious decision when we detach. So I wanted to share some things that I had learned between dissociation and detaching. All right, so of course I looked up the definitions because I like to compare the words. And dissociate is to break away from. Dissociation is the state of being unconnected in memory or imagination. And that's rooted in trauma. And then there's detach, leave or separate oneself, disengage. And detachment, the state of being objective or aloof. And that's rooted in trust, trust in ourselves, trust in our decisions. So, some of the symptoms of dissociation is there's that time loss. It's a foggy feeling. It's a survival mechanism. And it kind of says, I'm not here. You have left mentally, you have left that situation, that reality, and you've gone off so that you can protect yourself from the pain of whatever's going on. And with detachment, and I'm finding this because I've had to detach from a lot of relationships in my life right now, and it's been painful, but it's been the right decision for me. So in detachment, like I said, it's a conscious choice, and it feels clear, it feels grounded, it makes space for peace and clarity. And it says, I'm here, but I'm not attached. And that's the healthy way to really handle situations when we're feeling stressed. Sometimes there's things that we can't control. And when we feel out of control, we feel helpless. So what we can do is detach. And like I said, you can detach in love. You can leave relationships or distance yourself. There's people in my life that I've had to separate myself from and keep them at arm's length. So I've detached in love. Whereas, there was times where when I was around certain people in my life and, the situation become very stressful, I would find myself just kind of shutting down, checking out. And I noticed that I still do this at times, and it can be very frustrating. It's that old familiar, going back to our old patterns, going back to what we're used to. And I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to have spaces in my memory that I can't remember what happened. Um, and this is important. This is important for us to distinguish in our own lives. If you're someone who has done this as a child and continued as an adult, it's important to learn that distinction and learn to detach in love.
If you enjoy our content, you might want to dive deeper and check out the two books that I've written. One is called Unleashing Destiny, which is a deep dive into manifestation and how our brain works to help us manifest. And there's also Believe the Best About Yourself and Your Life, a guide to living beyond childhood trauma.
So now I'm learning to sit in this discomfort instead of flying away from it. And I realize that I can care about someone and not take on their pain. And I can feel that disappointment without making it my identity and my responsibility. And, detachment, it's not about the numbness. It's actually maturity and it's freedom with boundaries. It's love with wisdom. It's something to think about. Maybe you do that too. Maybe you have spots in your childhood that you can't remember and you thought maybe it was because you were too sensitive or because you have a bad memory. Chances are that's not it. You were dissociating. And maybe you want to see if you're doing that now because it's really important to change that mindset and start to detach, detach in love because, it's not only good for you and your mindset, it's also good for the people that you're relating to. Maybe it's a family member, friend, coworker, whoever it may be. I think it's good for the relationship because, sometimes when we're like this, especially when we're people pleasers, we take on so much and we start to build up maybe little resentments and we get in these patterns where we hold things in our hearts that really aren't ours to hold. And, if we don't release those things, if we don't speak up when we need to, when we should, when we ignore our intuition and kind of pipe down and not say anything when when everything inside of us wants to. And I think that's probably how it starts in childhood, because we learn quickly as children, there's certain situations that, what was the saying? Children are to be seen and not heard. I remember hearing that a lot. And it was always said kind of like a joke, amongst family members. But really, I think I took it kind of serious. I think I took it to heart and developed quite a pattern for that. So I don't know. You might want to check it out. Take a look at your own life. Maybe figure out some things that you can do to stop dissociation and start detaching in love. Because I'll tell you, it's freeing. It's freeing, and we all deserve that. We all deserve to realize how worthy we are. And remember, I talk about that. Our worth is inherent, and it's not on the chopping block. Start telling yourself that. Remember how worthy you are. Yeah, I just wanted to share that with you. I appreciate you listening. You have a great day.